Tuesday. We've got a couple of stories we're going to talk about because it's Taco Tuesday and the story is topical. We're going to open with the U.S. Border Patrol taking gunfire from Mexican drug cartels. But let me go ahead and show you guys there he is. I've got Cameron and Mario with me this morning. So we're going to start with Border Patrol, but we've got two more stories. Trump being a badass, and it's time to panic about AI again. So let's open with this. I'll go ahead and share the story here. Go ahead.
Hey, real quick, guys. It's been 1 week since Donald Trump has been president. Can you believe it?
Feels like a month,
and it feels like a good month. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not like it's not like a month in jail. It's like a month on vacation. Like I almost can't believe it, and as if it couldn't get good enough. Like he looks like he's actually going to take a run at eliminating the income tax. And like, no, seriously, I might peter out from winning. Like it turns out, there's only so many orgasms I can have in one day, and then I just have to stop. Like it's.
Yep. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Time is progressing at light speed. Dare I say, warp speed.
Well, yeah, light speed's the fastest it can go for a whole bunch of complicated math reasons. So that's
right. I started a thought without knowing how to conclude it, and that's
Jesus nerd.
So
I'm sure that never happens.
We got this story from the New York Post. U.S. Border Patrol and Mexican cartel members trade gunfire at southern border. U.S. Border Patrol agents and suspected Mexican drug cartel members traded gunfire near the southern border Monday as a group of migrants tried to enter the U.S. illegally, according to a report. Before we get any further down the story, let me just say this. The headline, the U.S. Border Patrol agents traded gunfire with hostile foreign invaders, should be the headline on every story that involves criminal aliens attempting to enter the country illegally.
No kills. That's why. Just wait. It'll happen. No kills.
One of the biggest contributors to the fact that we have a massive immigration problem is there are no substantial consequences to illegal immigration when you're coming into the United States.
Well, Daddy Trump's moving troops to the border, so
that's changing.
Tim Pool, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that what the Army's for? Am I crazy?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. In fact, I have said for years that the only country that we have any business getting involved with in some type of military conflict at this point is Mexico, and that has been the case for at least 20 years. All right, when the illegal immigration ramped up, into overdrive under George Bush the Lesser. Okay. Yeah. But that is, yes, Mexico is the only justifiable war that the United States could be fighting right now. And yeah, declaring war against the cartels and basically letting in the course of said war, the humdinger, in the course of that war against the cartel, it would expose all the labyrinthian spiderweb of connections to the Mexican government itself. Okay, Mexican government is basically just a figurehead that is controlled by the cartels. Make no mistake, Mexico is a narco state. Mexico is a failed state. Okay, and I'm sick of basically them using biological warfare in the form of demographics by basically dumping the bottom 10% of their society every fucking year, like on us. Okay, that's exactly what they're doing. And if they have a problem with taking their trash bag, they can get greased for all I care.
Yeah, that's part of the math that I covered yesterday when I was talking about the story about the return flights to Colombia. Is this has been a part of the conversation and a part of the math throughout the campaign. Donald Trump said they're not sending their best and their brightest back in 2016, 17. And it's not just that we have people who are the lowest common denominator, the most impoverished people who have the lowest value skill sets, if any, coming across the border. No. For the last 4 years under Joe Biden, crime rates have been falling in all of the countries that are primary contributors to illegal immigration to the U.S. because the governments of those countries, including Mexico, have been actively emptying their prisons and rounding up criminals and sending them to the border. They've been using us as essentially a prison colony for their most dangerous, violent criminals. That's why we've seen so many stories like the Laken Riley story over the last 4 years. Now, as to what I was saying about the answer on the border should always include the conversation about a gunfight. Temple had Dominik Trajinsky, a Polish MP, on the other day, and he was talking about how they're dealing with illegal immigration in Poland. And he said, I mean, they have rifle. This is not fashion accessory. It has purpose. Like, Nastroja, brother, because I don't speak Polish. That's good shit. So,
well, the Beretta is not part of
not even having the conversation about the cartel themselves. Just, you are an invading force. That's all the math I need.
Well, unfortunately, our military isn't issued a sidearm as part of the military uniform, which has always baffled me. Why everybody in uniform isn't at least packing a pistol will never ever not make sense to me.
You would have
one of the reasons that even as a veteran with rights and privileges to use the commissary of the PX, one of the reasons I don't do that frequently and take advantage of what really is a pretty good deal is that I'm so offended by the absolute disrespect paid to the Constitution, to which I swore an oath, that is done by the U.S. military in disarming law-abiding American citizens and refusing to properly arm our armed service members. It's called the armed services, right? If you can trust police officers whose primary mission is to harass law-abiding citizens and collect revenue for failing cities and municipalities, if you can trust them to carry a basic firearm, then you should absolutely trust your soldiers to do the same.
Yep. Just on a side note, point of clarification here, Your Majesty. Unfortunately, I have not gotten a haircut. What happened was Cameron shamed me before the program for looking like a homeless veteran who picks half-smoked cigarette butts out of the ashtray in front of Circle K. So I just combed it. Okay, but I'll get back to you on my grooming. Right?
So the shooting took place around 1:30. But Mario.
Yes.
The PX has a barbershop. The shooting took place around 1:30 near Fronton, Texas, but no injuries were reported. Customs and Border Protection said in a statement without revealing more details. I'm disappointed that no injuries were reported because, like, on the one hand, you don't want to see people get hurt, but on the other hand, I expect people taking my tax dollars and carrying a weapon on my behalf to be dedicated, competent marksmen.
So okay, I'll just admit it. Sometimes I do, in fact, want to see people get hurt. I realize it's not very Christian of me, but step one is admitting you have a problem. And really, we're talking about some of the worst criminals on our side of the globe. The things that some of these Mexican drug cartels will do, even our own homegrown American gangs wouldn't dream of doing. Like your average, member of the Crips in LA, they're not going to deliberately hurt women and children for shock value. That's not how they roll.
That's because the Crips in LA haven't gotten away with transnational criminal syndicate operations for 4 fucking decades. Okay, that's why they basically the outrageous, provocative acts you see from the cartel are a direct result of them getting away with it for decades. Okay, they get bolder and bolder and bolder, and
it keeps working.
Couple that with some, Aztec apocalypto blood, and you get some real nastiness.
Look at something like the Mafia and the way that it's romanticized through films like, Goodfellas or The Godfather, and one of the big conflicts in The Godfather was whether or not they're going to get involved in drugs, right? And there is actually some truth in that, insofar as that kind of organized crime began as essentially neighborhoods building smaller organizations that were akin to something like a neighborhood watch. Like the police for the large tax funded police force doesn't exist yet. We need something to keep a hold on criminality, and it's a very different creature. When you look at the Mexican drug cartels, Colombian drug cartels, etc., what you're looking at are criminal organizations that began for the explicit initial purpose of making profit by taking advantage of black markets in countries other than their own, where the original intent was to commit crime for profit. So there's no scruple there at all. And we refer to them as drug cartels, but in fact, these are the heads of the Hydra for the global child and slave trafficking industry as well.
Oh yeah. So here's my question, and we talked about this briefly before we went on air, but I feel like it's important to ask. The leadership, at least of the cartels, are not stupid. But this was a thunderously stupid thing to do. Like, Donald Trump has just come into office and he's throwing elbows every direction, messy hair, don't care, all day long. And you're going to open fire on Americans? Trump is old enough where, I always think back to when he was live on air with Rush Limbaugh and he dropped the F-bomb where he said, well, if Iran wants to fuck around, they can find out. And that's exactly who we're dealing with. It just seems so stupid for the cartels to stir up the hornet's nest now, because now I could totally see a world where Donald Trump's like, if you don't think I'll drop Moabs on your mansions, you are wrong.
Super labs.
Because say what?
Super labs. But like I was saying, as I said, the cartel's not stupid, but they are crazy. Okay, so fueled by drugs, fueled by basically the worst excesses of the flesh. Okay, like these are men living on borrowed time, and they know it. Okay, they know that They made a pact with the devil. All right, and they've got a devil may care attitude. So, not stupid, but they are prone to some outrageous, provocative acts.
I'll make a prediction. If a single person, not just American, if a single person dies on that border in one of these skirmishes, Donald Trump's going to march 5,000 troops right up their ass. That will happen, and he will not apologize for it.
Well, presently on the other side,
back to the stupid versus crazy thing. To at least some extent, Cameron, you're right. You don't get to that high level of functionality within any organization that's doing lots and lots of money without being some level of smart. And within the context of the criminal world, there's a piece of cunning there as well. And for Mexicans, Colombians, for Hispanic men, there's also a big chunk of the machismo there, where one could make the argument that the machismo, the cultural machismo of it, can read like somebody being irrational or being crazy, but there's a certain animal cunning rationality below it where, appearing to be weak, appearing to back down, shows an image of vulnerability that invites assassination attempts. Somebody else wants to, they'll clip a TO to get up and grab a bigger piece of the pie. So
That is true, and that is it,
Yep.
by attacking the cartels. Okay, the cartels aren't just going to like all band together in solidarity against the United States government. Okay, if you disrupt organizations, weaken someone, then the other cartel members kind of like beta fish. You know, they're gonna
They'll
move
kill
in
each other.
and kill each other. So anything that anything that fuels like internecine warfare amongst the cartels, I would support that. I know it has spillover on our side of the border, though, unfortunately, because they're so deeply embedded here, and understand
It'd be
that.
shit
Like,
for Mexico too.
yeah, it would be, but they're over here as well in large numbers. Okay, they've been here for decades. They've started their organizations here. They own real estate. Okay, if you go to war with the cartels, you're going to have terrorist attacks on our side of the border, as an absolute certainty. So just be prepared for that.
Waller points out the worker bees in the cartels aren't smart. The leaders of the cartels are rather smart, but also ill prepared for civil management.
That's true.
You know, I know all three of us have worked in places where you can see, okay, you got your middle management that these may not be the smartest people, and they're probably never going to be the C-suite, but they did manage to find their way to the top. But then you've got your burger flippers and fry cooks that have been there for, man, I've been frying fries at this McDonald's for 5 years. I know about running this store better than that shithead manager that's only been here for 4 or 5 weeks. What's their college degree matter? And it's like, no, hold on a minute. you may have that tenure of experience, brother, but you are in fact still frying fries. Like that's either a choice you made or is the result of choices you made.
Yeah, look, you're not wrong. There is no organization that you couldn't drop the three of us into, and if we wanted to, and to apply ourselves, we could get promoted within a year or two pretty reliably. And I take your point, but still,
I was a badass on the grill at McDonald's when I was 19. That was the shit. You never ran out of 10-1. Even during the
oh my god, Mario, you did work for McDonald's. If you know it's called 10-1, you just kind of blew my mind. The guy I worked for McDonald's for years. You're correct. Anyhow,
I worked for a McDonald's for exactly 1 month. I went in and said, "Hey, I speak Spanish. I can train your Mexicans. I'm going to be here for a month, and then I'm leaving the country for 2 months. And I want you to pay me, $2 more than your starting rate because I'll speak Spanish to your Mexicans." And that's exactly what happened.
Damn it. My 19-year-old Mario was so inadequate compared to 19-year-old Larry. Damn it.
You really were. I mean, it doesn't help that you were a foot shorter.
Always was.
Look, and anyhow, I know we got other things that we want to talk about and stuff that I really want to talk about. Yeah. It just, I almost, because I'm so used to everything blowing up in my face, and whatever the narrative is, pay attention to the right hand, don't look at the left hand at all. I almost wonder, okay, what am I missing here? Because this is such an insanely stupid move, because I have zero doubts that Donald Trump will retaliate in at least quadruple the fashion. Like whatever is done to us, Donald Trump will revisit it at least 4 times as bad on the other side. So I wouldn't be surprised if orders have gone out among the cartel members where, like, okay, look, we told you guys to not let anybody take this little bizarro no man's land island. But that was while Joe Biden was president. Now Donald Trump is president and you're getting new fucking orders. Like, because otherwise, like, why pick this fight? They can't win. And even if the press tried to make Donald Trump look like a bad guy, all they'd have to say is, look, A, they literally attacked our border, not figuratively, literally, and B, they're the guys supplying the fentanyls and the child sex trafficking and all this counterfeiting and money laundering and all of this basically human slavery right here on our borders. Like, it would be nothing but a win-win-win for him. And how many guys like the two of you would be like, "Oh man, you mean I get to go? I get to go kill guys that are just a shade away from terrorists that are right here on our border? Yes, please, sign me up."
Tengo que ver el DLPT en español y puedo martel cartel. Ay.
Reunirme al esercito. All right. Anyway,
Oh,
I'm
shit,
curious.
son.
What do you think about what do you think would happen if let's say there are numerous super labs in Mexico, right, where they conduct fentanyl on an industrial scale. We're talking
Right.
like laboratories the size of Costco, okay, like some serious laboratory. What happens when you bomb that?
Who
all that-
didn't watch Breaking Bad, right? And they
Yeah,
take
of course.
Nathan down to meet the new lab guys, and
Yeah.
that's a thing.
So what happens when you bomb that structure? Okay, what all that precursor compound? Does that like just aerosolize in the air? Is it gonna like float? Is it gonna like? Is it like a death? Like
You're gonna have like a
mist?
cloud
It's
of
like the mist that just floats down
opiates.
to the
Just
valley, and like villagers just start dropping like the Andromeda strain. Like what?
Actually, Mario,
What happens? I'm curious.
God, I hate that you spent as much time on the desk as you did. I can tell you from experience that firing a 40 millimeter high explosive grenade into a meth lab and firing one into an IED manufacturing lab,
About the same
the
thing.
meth lab blows up more.
Yes, it's hotter too.
It's a less stable, hotter explosion.
God, I'd love to see that. I'm gonna look. Oh.
And,
Okay.
and that's it. And that's when you're blowing up a meth lab that's like basically a double wide, right? So you start talking about a Costco, and basically your 5.56 just became a Moab.
Anyway,
well, I don't think we'd have to blow up that many of them though. Once the first couple, like the rest of it would be like, guys.
Once the first one or two got hit, people would just stop being at the other
the
ones.
operation
Just in
decentralized. The
case.
operation would decentralize. It would go back into smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd start cooking meth and fentanyl and double wides,
They would go back to the double wides precisely.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they'd
Be
be
a
everywhere.
huge financial hit for them. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, volume would go absolutely down the toilet.
Mhm.
Be over.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.
I don't have a good segue, so we're just going to move on to the next story. Donald Trump went to visit with the LA mayor and do a press conference.
I do have a quick segue. Okay.
Okay.
I do have a quick segue. So it was just yesterday in Colorado, right? A Tren de Aragua, all right, party was busted by ICE. Okay. And this is freaking hilarious. Like the audacity of these people. Okay. They had a rave, all right, for Tren de Aragua and basically their friends and associates. And they were foolish enough to advertise it. Okay.
Oh God.
Yes. The first week of Trump's presidency, they advertised that Tren de Aragua was having a rave, okay, at this large house, and sure enough, ICE rolled up in there and collected 30 of them. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Hey, look, I'm just gonna jump in, Chris. Leave it freeze framed right here. Okay.
I will for a second, but hang on a minute. Do y'all remember this classic? Oh, Mario, you're talking about they advertised and the cops got them. Remember when there were a couple of years ago there were sheriff's departments that were advertising, hey, some of the drugs on the street are dirty and they have dangerous extra chemicals and fentanyl and stuff in them. So you got to get that shit tested. Bring your drugs in and we'll test them for your safety.
Okay, so
traps.
Before we get to this, golly, of all the things that Donald Trump is so far, this may be my absolute favorite. This so well encapsulates like just the absolute like boss mentality that he is bringing. Like it's almost like he got screwed out of an election, spent years getting legally persecuted, and then got shot in the head and still managed to win re-election.
And he's governing accordingly.
Yes, yeah, and he is so out of fucks to give. Before this even happened, he'd already toured the North Carolina disaster area and said, maybe we should get rid of FEMA, just make direct payments to the states and let them manage their own disaster relief. And then he goes to LA and somehow manages to top that. And just this picture, look at him with his serious face. And look at her trying to play the politician, got that fake Joker smile on. Oh, I've been to politician school and I have to act a certain way. I can't give anybody any room to criticize me. And made herself look like an even bigger fool. Like, LA is one of the most famous cities to ever exist on the planet. And that's not an exaggeration. LA will be an icon 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, assuming we're still recording history. That section of California is going to be known as one of the drivers of everything that happened in the world. And
it'll be known as Mega City 2. It'll be
and this woman, like she was in charge when it burned down. Right.
And let me remind you, she was the other colored woman that was on the list under Kamala. This woman was that close to being Joe Biden's pick for VP.
Well, she was unburdened by what had been, Chris. It's fine. It's fine.
And before we play the video, I want to throw a little context out there. We've covered the wildfires. This update is as of this morning, and so you got the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the Hughes fire. These are still burning, right? It says it's contained at 94% contained, 98% contained, 95% contained. Okay, high 90s
fire.
High 90s% contained is still on fire. I don't know if you've ever been on fire, but I promise you, if you're just a little bit on fire, you are in fact on fire.
Right.
So that's a big part of the math that's going on here. Let's listen to a little bit of this press. The whole clip is 2 minutes and 18 seconds. You want me to just let it play?
You just let it play, brother. This is sexy.
As we can, but we want you to be safe. We want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't
Yes,
cost
and
a
they
lot.
can.
You
and
should
they are
let them
able
do
to-
it because
No,
by the
they
time you
can do
hire
that.
contractors, it's
Right.
going to be 2 years.
If a family
People are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
and they can.
There's
do
not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours. And that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract
If
that's going to
individuals
charge him
want to build-
$25,000 to do his lot. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because I looked,
signed
I
an
mean, you have
emergency-
emergency power, and you
Yes.
can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most
A
important
week
thing
is a
for
long
people to
time.
Okay, at the very
A
beginning
week
of
is
that,
a
he
long
said they
time.
ought to be able to start cleaning up right now. And she said, and they can. And then she just said they'll be able to get back in there in a week. So there's a lot to talk about here, but the biggest thing that I want to talk about in relation to this, forget about the mismanagement and all that for just a minute. I'm sorry, Mr. Government, you're telling me that you are denying me access to my private property.
Just because it's
Here we
ruined
go.
doesn't mean it ceases to be my
Here's
property.
an invoice for the entire amount of the property taxes that I have paid for the tenure of my possession of this property, plus interest and adjusted for inflation. Because if you, with threat of force, threat of violence, because that's the only way that the government does anything, is by saying, if you do it, we will shoot you. I don't care how many steps you put between don't and you get shot. That is the end point. Hey, pay your taxes or you go to jail. Well, what if I don't want to go to jail? Then we'll shoot you, right? Yeah. So she is saying the government will stand there with guns and deny you access to your private property. Okay. You owe me every penny of taxes I have ever paid in property taxes back immediately, plus penalties, because I have been defrauded. I've been paying taxes laboring under the fraudulent assumption that I owned this property.
Yeah. It shows it really is like the soft tyranny of progressive Democrat ideology. Okay. You know what I mean? Like any situation where something bad happens. Okay. Well, then we need to be in control. We need to be in control and micromanage whatever's going on, because I need to have that authority. Okay.
Right. Red lines are a good thing.
I can't just let people go onto their property and clean up their mess. Okay. No, I have to get involved. I have to be involved in some way, probably because there's a grift. There's a grift involved, like Trump said. Okay. Like we can get state contractors or whatever to come in and
charge you $25,000.
And then we can pluck, we'll give them 25,000 and we can pluck 5,000 for our reelection campaign off the top. Right. It's kind of stuff like that. But just the insidious creeping need to be in control of everything. Okay. And that comes, and the worst part is that mentality comes without the self-reflection to acknowledge that maybe I'm not competent enough or I'm not knowledgeable enough to be in charge of this situation. Okay. Perhaps it'll be best to leave it to the citizens and leave it to whatever private, private companies are willing to work with the citizens to help clean up. Okay. She talks about safety. I mean, like, what? Is there still smoldering, or are there exposed gas lines, exposed water mains broken? Are there, I would assume that
let's assume for a minute. Okay, you got mudslides, you got potential mudslides following some rain that they're about to get, that they're hoping is going to help get that last
it's
3 to 5% under control. Maybe exposed gas lines, down power lines, right? Various additional hazards that exist and have resulted from the disaster having happened. Okay, as a government body, an advisor, a public advisory, a service announcement, hey, these are the hazards that are still out there. That would be a totally appropriate action for the government to take. But to stand in my front yard with a gun and tell me I can't walk into my house, buddy, that's a good way to get shot where I live.
Yeah. I think Pitt Denny makes a good point. She's like, what about people with a home safe? Yeah, I bet there are people who are like, I need to get back to my burnt down, ruined property because I need to find that lump of molten gold that's probably 2 feet buried into the ground by now.
Look, the thing is,
and I need to find the fireproof safe that's got my fucking insurance documents in it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But the thing is, it would actually be really easy to steel man an argument for why going back into these neighborhoods would be a terrible idea. But everything leading up to this point has been so poorly mismanaged, and everything is currently being so poorly mismanaged. And the COVID thing in particular, there were a lot of people that did trust the government that don't now. Chris made a joke in a previous show about how things have flipped so far around. Epstein didn't kill himself, and the COVID vaccine didn't work. So now maybe we didn't land on the moon. There's a lot of that going on. Like it would be so easy to point to all the things that you just said, no, you really shouldn't go back into these neighborhoods for at least another week for this, and this reason. And it's the little boy who cried wolf. There might actually be a wolf eating the sheep right now, but we've heard this bullshit so many times. None of us believe it. And the thing is, if you were to let people go in and start cleaning this up themselves, there's not just the immediate level of grift. There is the change in mentality that comes from building your own life, sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is to have everything taken away from you, and you have to start from scratch and get back to where you were, because it teaches you you can do it. It teaches you who you can rely on and who you can't rely on. Look, anybody that goes in there with pickup trucks and dumpsters, they're not going to tell their neighbors, no, fuck you. You can't use my dumpster. That's not going to happen. Like, these communities will band together and say, gosh, we didn't need the government. We just needed each other and a little voluntary transaction, and we could solve this problem ourselves. And can't have that. No.
I don't think Cameron's met a California Karen. Okay, no. If I throw a candy bar wrapper in her roll off dumpster, she's calling the cops.
Look, that Karen ain't hiring a dumpster. That Karen that you're referring to, she's the one.
She's waiting for the $25,000 an hour.
That's right. She's waiting on the $25,000 contractor. Like, no, anybody that's willing to spend their own money to start cleaning up their neighborhood is not going to limit it to just their house. That's not how this works at all. Period.
No. I cut up trees with a chainsaw over here after Helene, that were a mile or two down the road from me, because hey, we all use that road. That's what we do. I see you boys looking over at the chat. You could just ignore Artie. He's talking about shit we were done talking about 20 minutes ago. You show up late, you don't get to enter the debate, son. So you can sit there and listen to the rest of the show, or you can fuck off, because we don't need you.
We kind of do.
One sentence. I'll respond to him in one sentence. Yes, the CIA does create organizations, okay, that they eventually lose control of. Happens all the time. Yep.
Yeah.
And we kind of do. I don't want to tell people to fuck off. Watch the show. Hate watch. Please. Hate watch. I'm good with it. But watch.
Okay. So the wildfire stuff. Trump says military has turned on the water in wildfire ravaged California, but the state claims otherwise. We will just have to see. Right? President Trump said late Monday that he sent the military to California using emergency orders to turn on the water in the wildfire-ravaged Golden State. So, okay, we've talked a bit about the Delta smelt and what's going on there, and understand that part of how the wildfire got as bad as it got, right? There's nothing that could have been done to completely guarantee that there would be no wildfire. But there was a lot that could have been done to be prepared for the obvious and predictable event of the wildfire. And one of the things that was done in direct contravention of that level of risk mitigation was California has been dumping their fresh water into the ocean up around the Bay Area, a 4-hour drive north of Los Angeles. And that's why the firefighters showed up and found that the fire hydrants didn't have any water in them.
Yep.
That's also why all the insurance companies started pulling out of California, canceling homeowners policies, refusing to accept new applications for homeowners policies. Right? Yep. It was all very predictable. And Donald Trump basically came in and said, you know what? Fuck that fish. Nobody eats those anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're trying to go ahead, Mario.
So that reservoir, right? There's that reservoir you saw the photos of, where it's completely empty. Okay. Just to give you an idea of California management. All right. That they closed it and emptied it so that they could do repairs on it and to do maintenance on it. And that began 10 months ago. Okay. It doesn't take. What is that reservoir in reality? It's a big swimming pool. It doesn't take 10 months to regrade a freaking swimming pool. Okay.
Correct.
That's California management right there. And the second thing, the Resnick family, okay, which controls the Wonderful Company, all right, which controls the majority of is the biggest agricultural biggest billionaire agricultural family in the state of California, walnuts, almonds, pomegranate, etc. Okay, they control the vast majority of the water supply in that state, and they have paid for it through their lobbying and efforts over the years. So anyway,
look,
go ahead, Ken.
Okay, you mentioned it shouldn't take that long. That's how all of these government contractors work. That's why all these things are such a problem. One thing that is really illustrative to me is we had an incident in Atlanta a few years back where in Atlanta got a lot of traffic. We've got what we refer to as the 75-85 corridor. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Interstate 75 and Interstate 85 briefly merge going through Atlanta, and it literally has more traffic on it than just about any other interstate system in the country. And there was some bum set a fire, and the fire got so out of control, one of the bridges on the north side of the 75-85 corridor collapsed.
Yep.
It was devastating to Atlanta's infrastructure. And it's difficult to exaggerate how devastating it was to Atlanta's infrastructure. So when this bridge collapsed, it had to get repaired, and it had to get repaired with a quickness. And somehow, magically, it didn't take years to repair this bridge. It took, yeah, I know. That's why I bring a second cup, Mario. You need to get with the times, my man.
Mario's waving his beggar's cup at you, dear.
But it didn't take years to repair this bridge. It took months, and there hasn't been a single problem out of that bridge since it got repaired. And we're talking about a bridge that was burned down. It should theoretically be one of the most unsafe things you can drive across in the city of Atlanta. So if we can fix a bridge like that in just a few months, don't tell me that it's going to take 7 months to bring in contractors to clean up trash. Don't tell me that it's going to take 10 months to regrade a dam. I'd be willing to say, okay, maybe it takes 2 or 3 or possibly, somewhere in that time frame, because you have to be careful. Water can actually be incredibly dangerous. But 10 months for what? Like, it's like when you drive past the road crews and you notice how like more of the guys seem to be standing around talking about what they're going to do next instead of doing whatever the next thing is. And that is so much of what Donald Trump is combating here. It's not just the fact that they're trying to depower the American citizen and they don't want the American citizen to realize they can actually solve their own problems, which is inherently the American ethos. Like, they are looking forward and they are going, whoa, wait a minute. There's millions of dollars in grift here. And Uncle Sam is going to open up the checkbook. Like, we are going to spend billions of dollars rebuilding LA. That's going to happen. And they're like, oh, man, I want a piece of that. I want a piece of that. I've got some minority-owned business. Yes, exactly, Chris. Nope. I've got some minority-owned businesses that are going to get some no-bid contracts that that are going to be part of this math.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Still, my favorite part of that whole thing is, weeks a long time. He'd already demolished her. And the fact that she was stupid enough to argue with him in front of people with that fake ass smile plastered on her face.
Yeah, it was bad. The whole thing is basically the interaction. It's Trump's like, you failed. Let me explain. Let me give you an example of why you failed. And her response is, no, I did. No, yes, I did. Well, actually, like that's all she had to say in response is with that fake fucking smile. Like, you were in Ghana. You were in Ghana celebrating the president of Ghana's inauguration while your city burned to the ground. What are you doing? Are you Ghanan? Do you need to be deported to Ghana? Like,
yeah, but the best part of that whole thing for me, like I literally like fist pumped the first time I heard it. Be like, well, a week's a long time, because yeah, it's like, golly, you just had to twist that knife, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's 8:15, Chris. Do you want to even try?
So-
And
Yeah,
Real
we're
quick,
gonna take a quick
wait.
stab at it. His Majesty says the road crews are watching YouTube to see what to do next. I've talked a little bit about that, about watching YouTube to do construction projects. Little stuff like my favorite story to tell on that front is as we move further and further down this rabbit hole where you can basically learn anything you want, in a 30-minute YouTube video, including real practical skills. Like, you don't know how to change your oil. Okay. You never met your dad. Well, YouTube will teach you how to change your oil. And we've
fixed
come
my
to a
steering
place-
column recently because of YouTube.
Yeah, like one of my favorite examples. I was going to I had to fix the shower in my master bathroom this a couple of years ago, but I was going to fix the shower, and it was a simple fix. I knew I was going in to repack the packing nut on the back of the shower valve, and I thought, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I've done this before, but it's been a while, and I pulled up. I watched a 5-minute YouTube video. I didn't learn anything from that video. It told me everything I already knew, but watching the guy do it, he reminded me there's also this washer in here, or this little rubber washer in here. If you're going to have it apart anyway, you should go ahead and replace that. I was like, oh yeah, I should.
That makes
And so, I ran down to the store and I grabbed a little pack of the rubber washers. Well, I had all the water off. I went ahead and took out all the valves and did all the washers at the same time, so that it's not something I'm gonna have to go back to. And that wouldn't have been a big miss, but it probably did save me having to go back and fix it later. But kind of a double-edged sword. Now that we've got our mechanics pulling out their smartphone to look up how to fix a part on the car, well, our cars are more complicated and they require a much wider knowledge base for a mechanic to be kind of a general guy. But the further we go down that road, the more and more we're going to see stuff with AI doing the work for us. One of the things that we heard from Biden's farewell address was he mentioned AI potentially being involved in the cure for cancer. And now there's a lot of talk about AI being involved in things like actually writing medical scripts. Well, over the last couple of days, this AI unit called DeepSeek has dropped, and it's kind of a big deal. The new AI model was developed by DeepSeek, a startup that was born just a year ago, has somehow managed to break through that famed tech investor Mark Andreessen has called AI's Sputnik moment. R1 can nearly match the capabilities of its far more famous rivals, including OpenAI's ChatGPT-4, Meta's Llama, and Google's Gemini, but at a fraction of the cost.
Yep. And it's completely accessible. Oh, I was just going to say that was an excellent segue, by the way.
Seamless. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, about the AI, so DeepSeek, it's really got Silicon Valley in turmoil right now. Okay, like stocks are dropping. Basically, we're operating like OpenAI. Okay, and it's one of the problems with U.S. industry is that once we create something cool, we want to like limit, basically hold it in stasis, limit it, and make that the standard. Okay, and try to shut down any competition around it. All right. Well, OpenAI's model is based on kind of a subscription program, okay, which is kind of expensive. It's not exactly cheap. What is it, like $20 a month for basic entry, which, for typing in some commands to a computer.
Not even. I think it's $10 a month for ChatGPT.
Okay. Well, anyway, you do it, but the higher end access to it is quite expensive. All right. What happened is China.
Yeah, so it's like $10 a month for ChatGPT for basically total access, but they just released their
the latest
video modeling
to it,
component, and to kick it up a notch, you get you can make 10 videos a month. 10 20-second videos a month if you've got the $10 a month membership, and then the next level I want to say is $100 a month. So I'm sorry, keep up your point, and I'll pull that up real quick.
Anyway, so yes, so the latest iteration of OpenAI released to great fanfare. Okay, NVIDIA stocks, through the roof. big tech bros excited, right? And then China just releases something that's better, cheaper, and they're allowing free public access for now. So really, really put a dampener in the sales of Silicon Valley. I guess, maybe, what, we lost the tech race. We lost the AI race. I'm okay with that. I guess we don't need all those H-1Bs anymore, right? So we can just cancel all that. So we lost. It's over.
Oh yeah, hey, cool.
No need
Sure.
for H-1Bs.
Send all the Indians to China.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll go back to nerf herding, because I'm a moron who can't do tech. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Nerf herding.
Oh.
Wow, Mario, you're just coming with all the geek references this morning. It's impressive.
Waller says it's not a Sputnik moment, it's a Toshiba moment. Take current tech and make it cheaper, not better.
Yeah.
So we've talked about market economics and that level of development before, and the example I always like to use to help people understand what we're talking about. In the late 90s, there was such a thing as a 100-inch television, but it was like $50,000, right? Now, and even like a 60 or 70-inch television, you might end up spending 10 or 20 grand on as late as 1999.
Can I interrupt real quick to answer a question? Pit Danny, no, they're banned there. That's why they had to invent their own, which is what has Silicon Valley scared shitless. Okay, yes. Go ahead.
So, so it started off that way, and rich people would buy the big TV, kind of like a status symbol, right? Well, the big TV makers were then able to buy more parts in bulk and make the product cheaper. And those more expensive televisions that were available toward the end of the 90s, they were a heavier duty, more durable product than what followed them immediately. But of course, as time goes on, you get better for cheaper as cheaper product allows volume to replace markup for the profit motive. And the result is that you get higher availability with less markup because volume can overtake the markup requirement for the profit motive. So we're seeing right now the beginning of that cycle in the world of AI. And if you are not getting smart on AI, you are about to be Blockbuster circa 2005, right? If you think that AI is not about to overtake everything, then you are sitting back in 1994 and saying, "Oh, this internet thing is just a fad." So, and I would ask, "Hey, CNN, how's that working out for you?" Right?
So,
but there's another thing going on here as well. Exactly the thing I just described with the internet, with a bunch of big businesses saying this is just a fad, and those businesses ceasing to exist because they did not take advantage of what would have been a massive profit machine for them. Right now, what we have with AI is a lot of big businesses learned that lesson too hard. And so they're attempting to overcompensate. So
we need to put AI in your refrigerator. No, you don't.
We're going to see the AI crank forward even faster and dominate whole segments of infrastructure and big business at an even higher rate than the internet did, which is also alarming. And so you come up to this DeepSeek thing. And the thing that I want to make sure that I caution you all on and help you understand, DeepSeek is Chinese. We've talked several times on the show before about the dangers of TikTok. Go beyond the social engineering that's happening where TikTok is being used to train your children and move them towards self-harm seeking activities. It is also a major national security risk because it is controlled by and accessed through the Chinese Communist Party. DeepSeek is the same thing. A Chinese controlled, and it's too late. I mean, the damage is done. an American has downloaded the app onto his phone to use DeepSeek in the United States.
Well,
That means that our infrastructure, our national security infrastructure, our intelligence security infrastructure, our InfoSec, our ComSec has been compromised by the Chinese Communist Party and a powerful artificial intelligence engine, which does include the capability to conduct quiet stealth activity within our own InfoSec infrastructure.
The possibility of Skynet is very real.
So, okay, this toothpaste was already out of the tube. Like, as soon as there was anything online, as soon as there was an online large language model, China already had it. Russia already had it. Iran already had it. Anybody you didn't want to have this technology already had it. Now, I understand and appreciate how dangerous it could be for China to control the AI technology, but this was going to happen anyway. And it really, I see the people in the chat, saying that this is, Chinese propaganda. Well, I mean, what isn't? This is these things were going to intersect in this way, no matter what we did. The question is, how do we respond to it? And I see Thomas Waller in the chat said that they're keeping the cost with DeepSeek down because it's DeepSeek claims that they use less power, because one of the problems with AI is that it sucks up a massive amount of power. It's my understanding, and I am no tech bro, it's my understanding that DeepSeek has deliberately cut off some of its computational power so that it does use less energy. So, and that's a big deal. Like, apparently, like, your normal AI models will calculate things to like a 32 decimal points, and DeepSeek says, well, we don't really need that. We can stop at 8 decimal points, and we can save all this energy, all this computational space. I do think that there is a lot of good here. It just depends on how we respond to it. And yes, be cautious of China, but don't let that stop you from engaging with it. Whether or not you want it, AI is coming to your car. I don't want it, but it's coming to your car. Whether or not you want it, AI is coming to your medicine. I kind of want it to come to my medicine, and I realize I might be in a small minority there. But it's going to happen. So instead of fighting it, like, learn to swim with the current on this one, or you will get sucked away.
Oh, okay. So if AI is going to be the next paradigm changing technology like the internet was, okay, in the 90s.
Yeah, the Gutenberg Revolution.
Right. So doesn't it stand to reason at some point either the wrong bet or mismanagement will result in AI's like a .com bubble crash moment? Okay. Or has that already happened? Is that what this is?
No.
This could be what we're looking at.
No, I think we're going to have a very different disaster. Part of the .com crash had to do with kind of an imbalance of companies that got on board with the internet at the right time and then built too fast. They rode the fad, because there was a period of it that fad was the right way to think about it, right? The pet rock soared in the market and then collapsed, right? And that was, in part because people bought pet rocks and then didn't care anymore. But the internet continued to matter. It just
pet rocks don't die.
Right. But the internet continued to matter more and more, but it became more important more slowly after a certain period. And there were a lot of companies, in the .com crash, there were a lot of companies that fell out simply because, even though so many .com crash companies took an absolute bath economically, there were a lot of companies that died because they just failed to remain competitive when they didn't get involved in the internet. Right now, we're not seeing large companies that are making the mistake of avoiding AI in the same way that they made that mistake in the 90s. So I think I think there is going to be some kind of sort of it won't be a bubble pop in the same way. There will be a critical mass moment that has a lot of problems associated with it, but it's difficult to predict exactly what that's going to look like, other than saying it's going to look very different than a simple .com bubble pop.
Well,
it won't be a crash like that. It'll be a different problem.
I represent the neo-Luddite movement, okay? And I think we need to smash the machines because they're taking our jobs, unironically.
Yeah, and actually, no shit. We could probably do a whole show on this conversation and maybe seek out the right kind of experts to interview on the topic. I would love to see a resurgence of the American muscle car as a reaction to the rise of AI and self-driving automobiles. I want to see people looking for that 68 Shelby, looking for that 57 Chevy, and restoring American classics. And why do you drive that old piece of shit? Oh, because I can fix it for less than a fucking annual income. I don't, because when the battery dies, when the battery dies, I can buy a new $200 battery and install it myself instead of paying $40,000 to have Tesla swap out my 500 pounds of lithium ion bomb.
Yeah, I've got a 1997 vehicle that I don't think I will ever get rid of, ever.
Bear
I'll
says
just keep fixing it because
resource constraints. That's probably that may be the thing.
Yeah.
It may not be that the businesses crash around the overhype of the product, but rather the too rapid adoption of the product causes nationwide or even global California style brownouts.
Yeah, that would make sense. You'd have a quaternary economy collapsing because of primary economy reasons. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're at 1 hour, guys.
Well,
so just
apparently
we could do a whole show on that. That may be a good one to cover in the future.
Yeah. Geometry.
Look,
yeah, brother.
Look, apparently, and I know, and I saw Thomas Waller in the chat say that this is not true. But again, apparently, part of the reason why DeepSeek is so revolutionary is because it does use less energy. They figured out which corners they could cut to save computation power, and that could be wrong. It's China. They're a bunch of lying commie fucks, so they could be lying. But it does, at least on the surface, make sense to me that less computation means less power resource drain. But the energy thing, like that's an issue with or without AI. Eventually, we were going to hit a critical mass where we needed more energy anyway. So again, that's one of those things. Like, I hear you, I see your point, but we were going to have to confront this at some point. So let's just go ahead and confront it. Because if we control the energy, we still win. So
I'm okay with our Shadowrun future where it's the Cybermancers versus the Eco Shamans. I'm okay with that. At least it'll be interesting.
See, I actually, if I get cancer and AI can help my doctor map out gene therapy for me, like I'm good with that. I really am. Like there is a lot of positive that can come from this. I think it goes back to what I said with the LA fire thing. We've just been so burned by our institutions straight up lying to us about PPE, for example, during a fucking global pandemic so they could hoard the PPE for themselves instead of letting us buy it. We've just been burned by so many things like that. Now we look at AI and we're like, nah, pull the other one, kid. It's got bells on it. Don't tell me this is good for me.
I agree.
They wiped hundreds of billions off the U.S. economy with words. And like Cameron said, they're commie fucks. they could be lying. One of the biggest problems we've had with China over the last several decades is that they artificially manipulate their own currency values in order to manipulate global market trades. And that's very much, as a psyop, as even a military tactic, a tactic to disrupt and sabotage the United States economy. That's absolutely within their wheelhouse.
You just took me back to Romney 2012 campaign. Damn.
What, you got binders full of women?
Binders full of women.
As much as I
Currency
despised Mitt Romney, big props to Romney for calling out Russia before it was cool. Like, he was a Democrat before the Democrats were Democrats.
Hey, the 1980s called, and they want their foreign policy back.
Right, said the president that went on to basically scream about Russia for the after going 20 years.
Indeed. All right. Well, I got some things to do. So
Mario's nudging.
If you want to,
I know. I had a thing I was supposed to do right after the show yesterday, but then apparently my lawyer was in a nasty car accident night before last, so we got to do that thing today. So, for you guys out there in TV land, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching this morning. We love you. Y'all be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.
Talk